It is Nick Zangle here, and this is the place for observant news commentary from me every week, where today on this Friday we are going to be talking about a subject that blurs the line between internet culture and mainstream pop culture, and it has to do with James Charles' latest scandal that he is in. So I saw James Charles' video taking accountability for what he did regarding him and inappropriate interactions between him and minors online. I saw this video posted right after I had already filmed and edited my last video, so I thought I would touch on it today on Friday, on usually a day I do pop culture related stuff. And although James is an internet culture icon or star, I knew this kind of blurred the lines because he has been in the mainstream pop culture world for a while, because he has had a Covergirl campaign. He was on Ellen DeGeneres Show very early on in his career. And so I thought I would talk about it today on a Friday pop culture thing, which is what we do every other Friday. So let's start with his apology video, or I should say, in air quotes, apology video. So I thought it was actually okay, and I thought he did own up to things that he's done, and it was relatively straightforward. But I did notice one thing first I want to touch on, which is the last part of his video, which it seemed like it was filmed a little later than the other parts of the video, because one, his hair was like a different shape. You know, sometimes on my videos you see, like when I'm cutting things, like you see my hair looks different because I was playing with it between takes that I cut out. And so also his shirt that he was wearing, a black shirt, it had this speck of white on it. I forget which side it was on for most of the video. And then that last frame, all of a sudden his shirt was like similar color, but it was like clean and didn't have like a piece of lint or whatever on it. And this to me indicated that his beginning part of his video, where he was really emphasizing the fact that this was not super scripted and it was kind of raw and uncut, maybe was partly the case. Maybe he came back later and filmed that last part because he needed to do some kind of wrap up, or he was maybe thinking about what he had said and thought of something else that he needed to add. I don't know, but either you can take it as he was really wanting to do this video to show he was taking this seriously and learning from what he was, this whole situation, or you can take it as it was more calculated and not real because it seemed like he had filmed it in two separate settings and was kind of editing it together. But I think either way, he is not going to win, because if he does this whole emotional, theatrical apology, taking accountability video, then people say he's trying too hard, and it's showing that he's guilty by overcompensating. But then if he does something not emotional enough, or too straightforward, or too unemotional, then people are going to say he doesn't care enough and he's not trying hard enough, or he doesn't have any feelings or empathy towards this situation or any remorse. So I think no matter what he does, he's going to get criticism for it. So I'd rather have him just do what he thinks is right for him at the moment. And to me, taking a more unemotional approach, even though it has emotional implications for him and others, is a very mature way to handle things. And he did say that in his video that he did not want to handle this situation the same way he handled the Tati Westbrook Dramageddon No More Lies video, which, side note, Analytic Nick popping in here, is that video is by far his most popular video on his channel. So there is something to be said to drama creates publicity and creates attention and can boost your career. The difference here, though, is that this is more clear-cut in the legal trouble area. So now let's get to my take on what some others have been saying regarding James's latest scandal. And so I see many people covering this, saying that if someone shows this many patterns of especially illegal behavior, then it's time to stop supporting them. I see where that is coming from. But in my opinion, you have the right to support whomever you want, and you are allowed to dismiss some behavior by some people, which could lead you to still support that person. We've talked about this with Without a Crystal Ball, Jeffree Star. I've touched on this throughout the past year. As gross as it makes me feel that people still support some people that I don't particularly support, I will always stand on the side of individual liberty. And so if you see all this stuff coming out about James and you still want to support him, I'm okay with that, because I'm not you. But what I am glad to see is that he is not being let off the hook just because he is gay or he is a trailblazer in his field of makeup as a man, which, as sad as it is something I worry about in a world now where people openly preach special treatment for historically marginalized groups. Also, regarding his video, was some people saw that he was wearing lock and key earrings, and they were taking it as maybe some subliminal message that he may know that he's going to jail or in legal trouble. So I'm not personally sure why he chose to wear those, but even after a video admitting to things and taking accountability, if you're brought into a courtroom, or if James is, you can't just plead ignorance to not knowing something is wrong. If you're in front of a judge and you say, "Oh, but I didn't know," they'll probably just say, "Well, now you know." So I will be interested to see if this develops further into any more serious legal issues with James, because things keep coming out over time. So I'm sure it will get to the point where someone has to take some action. Not sure how it will pan out, but I will let the legal commentators on YouTube kind of hash out the more legal side of things. And if something comes up, a filing of some sort in the courts, then they'll probably break it down, I'm sure. And I'll mention one of my favorite legal commentators later in the video. I want to touch on now what the significance I think is of this situation in pop culture, in culture in general. And in my opinion, this actually marks an end of a transitional period in media in general between old media and new media, and kind of the balancing of the two now. Whereas before it was mostly this mainstream centralized media, we had the rise of the internet star, which was slowly taking some of that power and some of that influence from mainstream media and was kind of making its own parallel, basically, media world. And now I think we're seeing that balance kind of settle in, where there's a place for both, but the internet media world is very influential, if not just as influential. Maybe some would argue even more influential. So, with that said, I see this James Charles scandal as the new media equivalent of Disney stars 10 years ago getting into trouble with the law. And so that is why I think this is such a significant moment, even though he's had past scandals, because of where we are in time regarding the rise of new media. And Emily D. Baker, like I said, I would mention, she is one of my favorite legal commentators. I enjoy her channel a lot. She touched on the topic of the responsibility that comes with having a large creator platform and the idea of people taking advantage of their large platform. And so personally, of course, my influence at this moment pales in comparison. I will say that when I realized real people were watching my channel and the content, there was this little bit of extra pressure added, even when it was just one person I knew was watching consistently. But it was because I was interacting in the comment sections, to the point now where I know many of you fairly well because of our interactions in the comment sections or via email. So I can understand how, if you have millions of people that are real, and maybe it happened very quickly for you, so you didn't have a chance to kind of build a foundation with a core group of people, maybe smaller at the beginning and it grew over time. And if you have that millions of people and you don't know them all on a quote-unquote real level, you might not be able to see them as real humans or treat them as real humans, and you may actually tend to look at them as more of assets or objects that may be disposable at times. Another problem I see is, if an underage person is posing as an of-age person, you have to use discernment to decide if they are telling the truth. And we know not everyone at every age looks or acts the same for a lot of different reasons. And so then you are left to basically profile people based on how they look or act. And that, from my perspective, goes against the popular narrative we are seeing in the world now of not judging people by their appearance or by how they act or any traits that are not intrinsic, if you will. But in this case, it could have saved James from getting into legal trouble. So to me, that is confusing to especially the young people who are surrounded by language on social justice and political correctness more than ever, more than any other generation, who actually could benefit from a more moderate, nuanced argument in this realm, where in this case, the thing that many are told is wrong, profiling physical traits and what you see on the outside, could actually save them and actually be a benefit to them. And so the obvious answer is, if you have this level of fame, influence, notoriety, only do adult things with people you know for sure, without a doubt, are of age and able to consent to any interaction. But I also understand there are things that blind both celebrities and their fans during these interactions that could become and could cross the line of illegal, immoral, moral. And so it's a very interesting dynamic and a very interesting story for that reason. And now, like I said, with trends of teenagers being able to basically look and act however they want, even if it's not even close to their real age, and especially if they're underage and acting and looking like they're overaged according to someone's world perspective of what they think is underaged or overaged. And a lot of that, I think, is because kids nowadays have so much access to obviously online and internet and information that would allow them to have that glow up or that change of look and actions, because they have more people to emulate, they have more tutorials, more access to everything. I think it is going to be more common stuff like this to come out, even as unfortunate as that is. And personally, I am glad I am not a parent yet and was old enough to not have been impacted in this way by this new media rise, because parents of children coming of age right now and those children that are most impacted by this are in a very tough position that I do not envy in the least. So I have a few questions that I would love to know your answer to. The first one has to do with age of consent, and my question is, if it is true that people mature at different rates based on a number of factors, how should we adjust the legal age of consent? And my second question is, how do you think this situation with James Charles interacting with underage people online will impact society's view of celebrity? Could be new, old celebrity, just social media in general, but let me know what you think in the comment section. And if you'd like to see more from me, make sure to tap or click the screen next to me, and I will see you here every Monday and Friday at noon Pacific Standard Time. Bye-bye.